Audrey.
You said if I needed anything, here I am.
Look, what are you doing?
What does it look like I'm doing, Frank? What I need is to be touched. I need to be held.
Have you been drinking?
I think I jumped the lines. You did. Sorry.
Jason Statham is the kind of actor you expect to never break character. Cold eyes, sharp voice, and that unstoppable action hero energy that makes him feel almost robotic on screen. But what if I told you that the same man who plays fearless assassins and unshakable operatives is also one of the first to lose it laughing on set? Behind all that intensity is a completely different reality, one filled with unexpected jokes, chaotic improvisations, and moments where even Jason Statham can't hold it together. And once you see what actually happens behind the camera, you'll never watch his action scenes the same way again. Jason Statham is widely recognized for his intense, hard-edged action roles, where he consistently portrays calm, controlled, and highly disciplined characters operating in high-stakes environments. Across a career spanning more than 2 decades, he has become strongly associated with physically demanding franchises such as the Transporter series, Crank, Fast and Furious, and the Expendables. In most of these films, his on-screen persona is built around precision, minimal emotion, and absolute control, which has shaped public perception of him as one of modern action cinema's most serious and grounded performers. However, behind the camera, this carefully constructed image often dissolves into something far more human and unpredictable. During production environments, where long shooting hours, repeated takes, and constant adjustments are normal, Statham is frequently seen breaking character in ways that sharply contrast with his on-screen intensity. Instead of the controlled assassin or tactical operator audiences expect, he becomes someone reacting instinctively to humor, unexpected improvisation, and the natural chaos of a film set. This contrast is especially noticeable in ensemble or comedy action hybrids, where timing and dialogue are less rigid and more fluid. During filming, even the simplest dialogue sequences can turn into extended comedic interruptions. What is originally written as a straightforward, emotionally neutral exchange can quickly derail due to timing mistakes, unexpected line deliveries, or spontaneous improvisation from co-stars. In many behind-the-scenes moments, scenes that are meant to be completed in 1 or 2 takes end up requiring multiple resets because laughter spreads across the set. This is not unusual in professional film production, especially in comedy-influenced action films, where improvisation is actively encouraged to capture more natural reactions. A clear example of this dynamic can be seen in Spy, 2015, where Statham starred alongside Melissa McCarthy. The film itself is structured as an action comedy, meaning the actors were often required to balance serious spy thriller dialogue with absurd or exaggerated comedic twists. McCarthy, known for her strong improvisational background, frequently deviated from the script, which created unpredictable responses from her scene partners. This style of filming is widely documented in comedy production techniques, where directors often encourage improvisation to increase authenticity and humor. As a result, even well-prepared scenes would frequently break down into laughter and repeated attempts to regain composure. In several recorded behind-the-scenes moments from such productions, sequences that should have lasted only seconds on screen extend into minutes of repeated takes due to uncontrolled laughter and miscues. Actors may attempt to reset their focus, only for the humor of the situation or an unexpected line delivery to trigger another breakdown. This cycle of attempt, failure, and restart is a common feature in ensemble comedy sets, where chemistry between actors often leads to spontaneous reactions that are impossible to fully script or predict. What makes these bloopers particularly notable in Statham's case is the contrast between his established cinematic identity and his real-time reactions. On screen, he is typically composed, precise, and emotionally restrained. Off-screen, however, he behaves like any other performer under pressure, reacting to absurd dialogue, struggling to maintain timing, and occasionally losing control of character due to laughter. This humanization effect is one reason blooper reels involving serious actors tend to resonate strongly with audiences. They break the illusion of invincibility that films carefully construct. In professional filmmaking environments, especially those involving action-comedy hybrids, it is not uncommon for a single scene to require multiple takes across several shooting hours simply because of timing disruptions, laughter, or improvisational interruptions. This is not a flaw in production, but rather a byproduct of attempting to capture natural chemistry between performers. In Statham's case, these moments highlight how even highly disciplined actors, trained to perform under controlled conditions, can be completely undone by unpredictability on set. Ultimately, these behind-the-scenes moments add depth to the understanding of his work. They show that beneath the tightly controlled action hero image is a performer fully engaged in the collaborative and often chaotic process of filmmaking, where even the most serious scenes can collapse into unexpected humor in a matter of seconds. One of the most well-known behind-the-scenes examples comes from Spy, 2015, where Jason Statham starred alongside Melissa McCarthy under the direction of Paul Feig. The film itself was designed as a hybrid action comedy, meaning a significant portion of its humor was not just scripted, but also shaped through improvisation during filming. This is a common approach in modern comedy production. Studies of improvisational filmmaking show that directors often allow flexible dialogue in order to capture more natural reactions, especially in scenes built around comedic tension rather than strict plot mechanics. In Spy, this approach became especially noticeable because Melissa McCarthy is known for her strong improvisational style, often deviating from scripted dialogue to test different comedic rhythms in real time. Jason Statham, by contrast, is traditionally associated with tightly structured action performances, where precision and timing are critical. When these two styles collided on set, it created an environment where scenes frequently evolved beyond their original structure. According to cast interviews and behind-the-scenes commentary, many sequences required multiple takes, not because of technical issues, but because the actors repeatedly broke character due to laughter and unexpected line variations. In several of these moments, scenes built around serious exposition, such as explanations of fictional chemical threats or spy operations, would gradually shift into exaggerated or absurd territory due to improvisation. As one actor extended or altered a line, the other would respond instinctively, often pushing the dialogue further away from the original script. This kind of escalating improvisation is a well-documented phenomenon in ensemble comedy filmmaking, where each added variation increases unpredictability and makes it harder for performers to maintain composure. As filming progressed, the number of retakes for certain sequences increased significantly compared to standard action scenes. In typical professional productions, a straightforward dialogue exchange might be completed in a small number of takes, but in comedy-heavy environments like Spy, it is not unusual for key scenes to require dozens of attempts before the final usable version is captured. Each restart adds a new layer of pressure and familiarity, which paradoxically makes the scene even harder to complete without laughter, as actors begin anticipating jokes or unexpected deliveries from their co-stars. What makes these moments particularly notable is the way the entire set becomes part of the reaction. Crew members behind the camera, camera operators, sound technicians, and even assistants are often seen reacting to the improvised lines, which further amplifies the difficulty of maintaining a clean take. In professional film environments, maintaining off-camera silence is essential for usable audio, but in highly comedic sequences, spontaneous reactions from the set can make it even more challenging to preserve continuity. Over time, what was originally designed as structured dialogue scenes gradually transformed into extended improvisational exchanges, where timing, reaction, and adaptability became more important than strict adherence to the script. This is where the chemistry between Statham and McCarthy becomes especially visible. His controlled, deadpan delivery repeatedly collides with her unpredictable comedic rhythm, creating a feedback loop of reactions that naturally escalates the humor. Ultimately, these spy bloopers highlight a well-known reality of filmmaking. When strong improvisers and tightly controlled performers share the same space, the number of usable takes often decreases, but the authenticity of the final product increases. The result is a set environment where structure and spontaneity are constantly competing, and where even serious scenes can collapse into repeated laughter before they ever make it to the final cut. Melissa McCarthy's improvisational approach plays a major role in shaping the unpredictable energy scene during Spy, 2015. In professional comedy filmmaking, improvisation is often deliberately used as a performance technique to increase authenticity, and director Paul Feig is well known for encouraging this method across his projects. Instead of strictly locking every line, actors are sometimes given room to adjust dialogue in real time or respond naturally to unexpected additions. This technique is widely used in modern comedic productions because it increases the likelihood of capturing genuine reactions that scripted dialogue alone often cannot produce. Within his environment, Jason Statham's performance style becomes especially striking. Known for highly controlled, precision-based action roles, he is placed in a setting where dialogue can shift unpredictably from one take to another. This creates a constant contrast between structure and spontaneity. While McCarthy may extend or modify a line for comedic effect, Statham often responds with a fully committed, deadpan delivery, which intensifies the humor because of how seriously his character treats increasingly absurd situations. This straight man versus chaos dynamic is a classic comedic structure that has been used in film and television for decades, and it is particularly effective when one performer remains completely grounded while the other continuously bends the scene. As filming progresses, repeated takes become a natural part of the process. In typical professional film production, a standard dialogue scene may be completed within a limited number of takes depending on complexity, but in improvisation-heavy environments, the number of retakes can increase significantly due to variations in timing, delivery, and unexpected reactions. Each attempt introduces slight changes, whether in tone, pacing, or wording, which makes it increasingly difficult for performers to maintain continuity without breaking character. In several instances, scenes reportedly reach a point where even the cast and crew openly acknowledge the difficulty of continuing without laughter. This is a common occurrence in comedy productions, where improvisation is encouraged. Once a humorous variation lands successfully, it often becomes harder for the performers to return to the original scripted rhythm. The repetition of lines under these conditions creates a compounding effect, where familiarity with the joke actually increases the likelihood of breaking character rather than reducing it. The result is a form of controlled instability on set. Rather than following a rigid sequence of scripted beats, the scene evolves through a cycle of repetition, adjustment, and reaction. Each new take carries the memory of the previous failed attempt, which subtly raises the comedic tension. This is especially true in scenes where serious subject matter is intentionally contrasted with absurd dialogue, as the gap between performance tone and content becomes wider with each iteration. Over time, this process defines the overall energy of the set, structured enough to maintain narrative direction, but flexible enough to allow spontaneous humor to emerge. The balance between McCarthy's improvisation and Statham's disciplined delivery creates a feedback loop where each actor's approach directly influences the other. The more unpredictable the dialogue becomes, the more effort it takes to remain composed, and the more likely the scene is to break into laughter before a usable take is achieved. What makes these bloopers particularly engaging is the clear contrast they reveal between Jason Statham's carefully constructed on-screen identity and the more spontaneous reality of his behavior during production. Over a career spanning more than 20 years in mainstream action cinema, Statham has become strongly associated with roles that emphasize restraint, control, and minimal emotional expression. This consistent casting across major franchises such as The Transporter, Fast and Furious, and The Expendables has helped establish a public image of him as one of Hollywood's most serious and composed action performers. However, behind the scenes of film production, that controlled persona is not constant. Like most professional actors working in high-pressure environments with long shooting schedules, repeated takes, and collaborative improvisation, he is subject to the same human reactions as any performer. In blooper and behind-the-scenes footage, moments of laughter, hesitation, and unscripted response are common indicators of how even highly disciplined performances are still vulnerable to disruption when timing or dialogue unexpectedly shifts. Film production studies consistently show that repetition and fatigue during long shooting days increase the likelihood of breaking character, especially in scenes involving humor or improvisation. This contrast becomes even more visible in large ensemble action films such as the Expendables franchise, which brings together multiple veteran action stars in a shared narrative space. With actors like Sylvester Stallone, Jason Statham, and others working in close proximity, scenes often involve overlapping dialogue, rapid exchanges, and tonal shifts between seriousness and humor. Behind-the-scenes footage and cast interviews from such productions frequently highlight that even heavily scripted action sequences can loosen significantly during filming, particularly when multiple performers begin improvising small variations in delivery or timing. This naturally increases the likelihood of laughter and missed cues during takes. In these environments, the boundary between character intensity and off-camera behavior becomes more fluid. A scene designed to depict high-stakes missions or serious tactical planning can, during production, repeatedly break due to timing errors, unexpected line changes, or spontaneous reactions from fellow actors. Each interruption requires a reset, and with every reset, the familiarity of the moment often makes it more difficult for the cast to maintain composure. This is a well-documented phenomenon in film production. Repetition combined with humor tends to amplify rather than reduce the chance of breaking character. Ultimately, these bloopers highlight an important reality of filmmaking as a collaborative process. While audiences primarily see polished, controlled final cuts, the production process itself is often filled with multiple failed attempts, revisions, and moments of unintended humor. In Statham's case, the contrast is particularly striking because his roles are built around emotional control and intensity. When that control breaks, even briefly, it creates a sharp and memorable shift that feels more human than heroic. Taken together, these behind-the-scenes moments reinforce a broader truth about cinema. No matter how serious or high-stakes a role appears on screen, the process of creating it is inherently unpredictable. And in that unpredictability, where disciplined performance meets spontaneous laughter, the most memorable off-screen moments are often born. If you enjoyed seeing this completely different side of Jason Statham and the chaos that happens behind the scenes, make sure you don't miss what's coming next. Subscribe and stay tuned, because there are even more unbelievable bloopers, unexpected actor moments, and behind-the-scenes breakdowns that show your favorite action stars in ways you've never seen before.